So if you can hang in there for a little bit, I'm going to take you on about a 10-minute, 30,000-foot hyperspeed overview of how we can use music and creativity to help with the evolution of a human potential and flourishing going forward. And hopefully give you some examples of how that's possible and why it's important. So Daniel's a 12-year-old boy playing with his mind is full of angst, frustration, living inside of a world that just doesn't make sense to him. And he's filled with emotions, and his mind is filled with colors because he has synesthesia. So he sits down at the piano and he pounds his angst into the ivory keys. And as the colors in his mind start to transform from muddy browns and dissonant reds to soft blues and shimmering golds, he entrains himself and changes the music. And as he changes the music and plays along to the colors, his emotions change with it. He modulates between keys and dynamic levels and harmonic rhythms. Without a therapist, without words, Daniel resets his emotional state from chaos to calm. Through music, self-expression, in the midst of all this, then he manages to do what all of us are always trying to do, which is combine all these potential that's innate to our nature as human beings to find calm in the midst of chaos and to thrive in the face of challenge. And Daniel's not just a story. He's a symbol of our own complexities, our neurodiversities, and our untapped potential as humans. Daniel was part of a music-based social-emotional learning pilot program. We did it at an incubator in the nation's largest public school system for what they called at-risk sixth graders. At risk, you can define who you want, but they just didn't like the way they fit in the rest of the system, basically. So I'm not sure who they were at risk to. But and we chose sixth graders because that's a formation of identity. So if we can help sixth graders modulate who they are, we help CEOs much later in life modulate who they are as human beings and change their identities. So we use a process called super learning where we stack modalities. We stack movement, music, mindful meditations, and self-expressive exercises and art, so that they can reshape their sense of themselves and, like Daniel, manage his emotions and his regulation and use his gifts in the way he's meant to use them. Before I met Daniel, when he was labeled as an autistic, a misfit, socially, I wouldn't say inept, but challenged and emotionally challenged. But as you saw in that exercise that I shared with you just a minute ago, the Daniel I met was probably a synesthetic master at self-regulation of emotions at a level that I know few people are capable of. And the identity I came to find in him, and he came to find in himself, was as a gifted, talented, and loving soul. Now, I can identify with Daniel, and maybe some of you can, because like Daniel, I was a highly creative and empathic 12-year-old misfit in the midst of a crumbling, chaotic world that didn't make sense to me, much like what we're seeing today. Detroit, once one of the Silicon Valley of America, the poster child of the Industrial Revolution, the hallmark card of the middle class, the rising middle class, by the time I was 12, had completely crumbled from corrupt government, racial tension, the collapse of the auto industry, and a number of other things going on that destroyed the city around me. I remember distinctly laying on my back in the dark on the floor with Marvin Gaye shouting, one of the local artists, into my ears, "What's going on?" And something shifted in me. I found refuge. I found calm like Daniel. I was able to entrain and to feel seen and to understand and feel understood. And I made a choice in that moment, over 50 years ago, when I also found reconnected to my dream, to my identity, and to my purpose. That I would go forward in the world and help others use music and creativity to find calm in the midst of chaos and to thrive in the face of challenge. So could it be that we're actually biologically encoded to music and creativity? If you were to ask the late, God bless his soul, we lost him last year, Edward O. Wilson, the great evolutionary biologist, it would be a resounding yes. It turns out that our innate potential as the creative species, amplified, especially if amplified by music and a common cause, may be our greatest evolutionary asset and advantage going forward. Let's take a ride back to the future, about 250,000 years. It's genetic adaptations that increased the size of our brains by nearly 300% were fueled, and they led to new eras of cultural innovation, altruism, and collaboration never seen before on the planet by the human race. We're fueled by music making, dancing, ritual, storytelling, and social bonding around the fire. Music and creativity didn't come after civilization. They helped build it. Times have changed a lot, and they're changing faster every day. But our foundational neurobiological and emotional wiring of human beings has not so much. A controlled study of participants from 5 different countries found that families who played music in the home expressed less negative emotion, spent more time together, cooked more meals together. They even thought the food tasted better. And here's the blocker. 67% of the couples in those homes had more intimacy and sex. Now, if that's not an evolutionary driver, I don't know what is. Now, music is and has always been medicine. Countless scientific studies, critical cases, and a millennia of real-world examples have validated music's role in medicine. From pain management to depression, from neurological disorders like Parkinson's to more advanced cognitive decline issues like Alzheimer and dementia. And if we include pathways to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance, well, then you can add a whole slew of things like focus, sleep, creativity, and human bonding, as we saw. Let's take a minute and look at the human ear. The ear is one of the most valuable pieces of health real estate on the planet. Apple, where I worked as their first music and health specialist, has been profitably developing that real estate with their AirPods and their patents and roadmaps for the last 10 years. And what you'll see in the next 5 years will really blow your mind. There are many other people playing in this space. I don't have enough time to get into the whole market map, but I'm happy to talk to more of you who are interested in that. Imagine, though, not so far in the near future, or not so far in the, is that right? Distant future? You're wearing your brand new pair of highly fashionable earbuddies, comfortably tucked away as you go about your day. And inside is a turbocharged computer, a high-fidelity hearing enhancement system, and a sophisticated set of biometric sensors to monitor and improve your health and well-being and quality of life. With these stylish tech companions, you'll be able to personalize inputs, track physical and emotional states, measure the real-time impact that auditory input has on performance, productivity, and well-being for the first time. We're in the decade of sound. You might have seen the rise of sound baths and many other companies, even here today, doing amazing stuff, stacking sound and other modalities. And we're bringing together exponential technology like AI, machine learning, nanotech, and voice analytics to capture a whole range of real-time biometrics through one of the most powerful gateways to the human mind, the human ear. Now here's a question we can think about. Some of you might, does design matter in the future of human flourishing? Well, you know, the femtech company Ancora, who makes these gold earring studs that have biometrics in them for ladies, and thinks so, is betting on it. Steve Jobs bet all of Apple on it with all of his designs. And now Johnny Ives and Sam Altman have announced a $6.5 billion co-venture to all focusing on what we call physical AI. One of the things I learned from this crazy, multi-diverse career of mine is scoring Hollywood films, whether I'm studying ancient wisdom in India or Peru, or whether I'm training peak performers, is that the true power of music comes not as music alone, but when it's integrated with other modalities. Today, more and more companies, some of them here, as I mentioned, are mixing music, sound, haptics, light therapy for optimal recovery and performance. And what's going to happen to the spa of the future? Well, top auto brands like Audi and Range Rover are already developing multimodal experiences, and including biometric sensors, for the immersive spa of the future, the self-driving car. Nicer way to go to work, huh? So even Novak Djokovic, who you may know is the world's #1 tennis player, has developed his own multimodal product here called the Regenesis Pod, coming to market soon, to help maintain his optimal recovery and performance. And I'd say he's doing a pretty good job. And as we learn more about the real biological impact and effects of these kind of experiences through these different systems, my goal and my hope is that we can bring them into health by understanding how they affect cell health, immune response, mitochondrial activation. And we can apply what we learn from longevity and peak performance, that which steps about 10 years ahead of traditional medicine, and bring that back inside to support protocols in more sophisticated or more complex practices like plasmapheresis or blood transfusion, cancer treatments, surgery, and even organ transplants, by resetting and preparing the immune system and the immune response through a 15-minute experience before patients go into these kind of operations, procedures. Now I'm going to wrap it up here, but in the end, you know, we've made clear that over these past few days that a better future won't be created by AI or technology alone. It was the first thing I learned when I started at Singularity University in 2011. It was very clear. A better future will require us to amplify our own human potential, our collective genius, and love for a more evolved humanity. In the end, we can use AI to help us enhance our creativity, yes. We can use it to make new kinds of music, yes. We can use it to help us tap into knowing more and unleashing our human potential, yes. But if we use AI to replace culture, to further commoditize creativity, and to remove our own agency for the tremendous challenge of what it takes to do creative expression at a level of excellence that we're capable of, we risk eroding the foundation of what it means to be and to evolve as humans. Thank you, everybody, for listening.